So I think it was sometime in college on a Friday night after reciting the motzi and before eating the challah, when I first remember witnessing this ritual. Someone took a salt shaker and they sprinkled salt on the challah before eating it. But this wasn't for adding flavor. I learned that the meaning of this ritual comes from two places. One is the book of Genesis. So when God was at the cusp of expelling Adam and Eve from the garden, God told Adam, "By the sweat of your brow, you shall get bread to eat." Now that humans were being kicked out of the garden and wouldn't have food anytime and anywhere they needed it, human beings would need to work to get our food. And we would work hard tilling the land, and we would break out in those salty beads that come forth from our pores. A second place that we find an origin connected to this salting of the challah is when we add salt to our sacrifices. We add the salt to our bread as a reminder that our table is like an altar. We don't merely grab food like animals do. We offer a blessing before we eat, giving praise to God for the food that we are about to eat. In our Torah portion this week by Ikra, we come across to this reference to salting the sacrifice on the altar. How interesting that we add salt to all the sacrifices, not just to the meat ones to drain out the blood, but also the ones that are grain offerings. We are commanded to add salt to all our offering. It says, Al kol korbancha takriv melach. You shall season your every offering of meal with salt. That offering of meal is specifically the vegetarian one. And then the verse goes on to say, you shall not omit from your meal offering the salt of your covenant with God. With all your offerings, you must offer salt. Salt. And a covenant of salt. Why salt? Well, what does salt do? Salt is a preservative. Salt preserves. It's a symbol of lasting endurance. The covenant with God is just one relationship we preserve. And this verse inspires us to think about the other covenants and relationship in our lives, what we do to make them endure, especially at a time when it's still hard for so many of us to be in person with one another. Passover is coming up a week from tomorrow. And there's a custom prior to Pesach called B'dikat Chametz, a search for the leaven. This can be a fun project for those who like to play hide and seek or hot and cold. Strategically place pieces of bread in rooms around the home, and then have someone else search for them until all the pieces are found. Or you can strategically place pieces of bread around your home and then search for them yourself and hope that you remembered all the places where you put them. Traditionally, this is done with a candle, a feather, and a wooden spoon, though some people choose to use a flashlight instead of the candle, which is a little safer, especially if children are involved in the search. And I learned this year about a variation to this B'dikat Chametz, this searching for the chametz ritual, which uses salt, that was practiced by the Jews of Baghdad. 19th century Rabbi Yosef Chaim, a Kabbalist referred to also as Ben Ish Chai, he notes that there was a custom among the Jews of Baghdad to put salt on the dish that they used as they gathered the pieces of bread while searching for chametz before Pesach. And one of the reasons that he suggests for this tradition is that it might be an omen for fulfilling this mitzvah for many years to come, as the Torah refers to the salt as an eternal covenant. So it's preserving this tradition, and may it be preserved into the future. Rabbi Tim Daniel Bernard, Director of Digital Learning and Engagement at the Jewish Theological Seminary, suggests that this lesson from Ben Ish Chai, as we prepare for our upcoming Sidarim, or Seders, when we hope to sit down, for those who might even be sitting down in person for a ceremonial meal together with some of those with whom we are in relationship, as we continue to celebrate the ongoing relationship that God established with our ancestors. May we remember to reconsider, reseal, and strengthen all the covenants in our lives. Salt serves not only as a preservative in looking toward the future, salt can also link us to memories of the past. During the Passover Seder, there's another ritual which involves salt, right? That's the dipping of the karpas. In our family, our karpas is parsley into the salt water. The salt water represents the tears of our ancestors who endured the harshness of slavery. And so when we dip our parsley into the salt water, we preserve that bitter memory of tears. And I imagine this year, as we dip our karpas into the salt water, many of us are thinking not only of the tears of our ancestors in slavery, but also the tears that we shed over the past year and the bitter memories that we endured. We've undergone illness for ourselves and witnessing illness in those close to us. We've lost loved ones, and we were unable to mourn together with hugs and human touch. We missed out on simchas, marking those joyous occasions the way we might have expected, gathering together in person with friends and family. Through these experiences, we cried metaphoric and real tears of sadness. Yet let's also remember that the symbolism of the karpas, this green sprig, it represents the season of spring and the potential for growth and renewal. Dipped into our tears is also hope in looking ahead of what good and new opportunities might come our way. There's another story in the Torah that depicts salt, which teaches us yet another lesson beyond preservation and memory. It's the story of Lot's wife, right? Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. As you may recall, God was preparing to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham had argued for God not to do so if God could only find 10 righteous people within the community. But God only found 6. God could not find even 10 righteous people. And among the 6 were Abraham's nephew Lot and family. As they departed from the cities, they were commanded not to look back. Lot's wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. Similarly to the tears symbolized by the salt water, Lot's wife embodies an entire pillar of salt, a monument marking the place where, looking back, she witnessed the pain and sorrow of the life which they had just fled. Rabbi Rena Blumenthal speaks of Lot's wife in this way. Salt is the stuff of tears, but it's also the substance which preserves. As such, it's a fitting symbol for the sorrow and the stubbornly preserved memory of those who insist on looking back, those who insist on bearing witness. Pillars are monuments that help us remember something vital. Lot's wife is the pillar that reminds us to bear witness, no matter how painful the act. And there is yet another lesson which we can learn from Lot's wife. She succumbed to her tears and couldn't move beyond them. She failed the test because she couldn't bear to leave. One commentator in a blog post on this topic shared, while Lot's wife may be a reminder of the importance to bear witness, she became paralyzed by her grief. She was not able to move beyond her salty tears, and she succumbed to them rather than moving forward with a plan B. And so this teaches us that life rarely follows the direct path of plan A. If it did, life would be so much easier. The true test is the ability to reinvent oneself through a plan B and move forward, not letting the tragedies along the way, regardless of how big they are, define who we are. We have lived through a year of events unfolding not as we expected it would be. And life was so hard to predict with so many uncertainties. It remains that way in some ways. With resilience, we've had to pivot and reinvent ourselves. And in so many ways, so many times, it was hard. Yet, we could not let the sadness paralyze us. With perseverance, we moved forward through the hard times, and we found silver linings along the way. And forging ahead into this next year where more people are getting vaccinated and emerging from our homes in the longer hours of daylight, and with the hope that we will return to warmer weather, Plan A or Plan B, we must continue to move forward. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God, the God of our ancestors, as we might choose to add salt to our Shabbat table each week and dip our karpas into salt water at our Passover Seders, help us to integrate the various symbolism of salt into our lives. May we remember the multiple covenants of which we are part and work to strengthen those relationships. May we preserve the memories of the past and continue to carry on our traditions into the future. May we be granted the resilience to endure the troubling times and the perseverance to pivot and pursue Plan B. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.